we'll go from the sovereign. You call them sovereign citizens. Most of these people, they're not bad people. Saying that sovereign citizens, that's a claim, a label that people put on them, like they try to do to me. I've seen the effect of my local government, of being beat by cops, of having some really dirty things done to me by my legal system and other things that caused me to research this. And I know for a fact that, okay, I'll do this right here. Just give me 1 second.
Sure.
In 1933, have any of y'all read about Jekyll Island?
I've been to Jekyll
Thomas
Island.
Jefferson. Okay. Where a bunch of bankers kind of got together and said, we're not going to do business against each other, we're going to come together. And see, Thomas Jefferson said that the worst thing that any other standing army would be fractional banking, not to be able to coin our own currency. So right now, none of us can have representation in Congress to say, hey, we want our money to be done this way or done that way. We have no say. It does not matter. And if we can't control our money, nothing else matters. Our bombs can go and kill whoever or whatever, and we have no say on it. That's one of the things that I started on this, is I don't like war. Just like y'all gentlemen, I don't like war. I don't like my money being spent in taxes on killing people, and that's why a lot of these so-called sovereign citizens are doing this. They don't want their money spent on war, and that's the seed of the sovereign citizens. These are real, like, kindred spirits that love y'all and everybody else. Now, the majority of that is fractional banking is destroying and raping our American society. Like you said a while ago, the family court is about money. The state treasury is getting kickbacks to the judges and everybody, and it more comes down to how much money they can get for themselves.
Okay.
Well, I will say to you that I clerked for a family court judge, and I can tell you I never got no kickback in a child custody case.
Well,
and neither did my judge.
With mine, and I just got all the discoveries and everything, and I can see where the Treasury, where not only the DA, I got it brought down for conflict of interest, where the DA, Secretary, everybody in the room but me was receiving benefits from the state Treasury. So they have beneficial claim.
You mean receiving benefits as they are getting paid?
Yes. From the same Treasury account.
Well,
and I think more or less,
yeah, the employer is going to be the state,
people.
Right?
What,
the employer is going to be the state, right?
Exactly.
But we also live in a government that has separate but equal branches. You have the enforcement body, that is the administration, and then you have the judiciary, that is intended to be an independent check on the executive.
All right, so you have
now you say that because the judge is being employed by the Treasury, that thereby creates a conflict of interest. But then, who would you have in place with the judge to adjudicate your case?
Okay, this is what I gotta say. It starts with the contract that you get solicited to under color of law when you're at the hospital, and a man and a woman are going through this kind of dramatic thing of having, they throw a bunch of papers out and say, read this and write that, like this one that says affidavit of parentage, and they slip a little bitty, hold on, I can read it to you right here. I'm just saying, it's very sneaky, and our government should be transparent, and there shouldn't be a perversion of language. A while ago you said something that is so bogus and so, the law, like I agree with what you said, our law should be toward the layman's, but there is how many categories of Black's Law Dictionary that have to redefine words? Like I was reading the other day, to live means to be between walls that vibrate sound. What does that mean? I got the Black's Law Dictionary right beside me. It's totally different definition that is a perversion of language to gain jurisdiction over somebody. That doesn't need to be that way. None of us that are citizens, citizenship. It's all admiralty law. The United States should be under common law. Nobody should be in a criminal court unless they have evidence of a injured party or a burnt down house, like it says.
Yeah,
Everything else is
hold on one second, King.
statute.
Hold on one second. Let him answer that first part of your
Yes,
question.
sir. Go ahead.
Okay, so I mean,
I can
again,
learn
this
from
is
you.
sort of like the word language that you kind of use, where as you just said, the citizenship, as though the etymology of the word citizen or citizenship has anything to do with a literal boat. This isn't.
It's symbolic.
This isn't national treasure. This isn't like coded language that you have to find all the clues. You know, the woman's birth canal.
That's a
This
good
is a
canal
very, very
that gives you
ancient
the
Jewish
birth certificate,
society.
and it goes into Admiralty Maritime
This is
Law.
just
Come
all
on, man.
law. Listen, this is very, very... Okay, how can I say this? I know that y'all don't believe in God, but our society is based around Masonic.
Excuse me, sir. Do not assume what my religious beliefs are.
No, I'm
Please
not talking
don't
to you,
do that.
brother.
Artie's like, don't lump us in with these two chumps.
I watch nonsensical.
Yeah,
I'm talking to these two.
Jump the shark there.
He was talking to. I think he was talking to me instead.
Right, yeah. Calm down, bro.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
Let me ask you.
wait, before you do that, hold on, before you
Hang on,
any of you
King,
do
hang
that,
on.
before any of you do that, James Freeman, who runs a very popular channel, First Amendment Auditor channel on YouTube, is going to come in here. He has to come in because he wants to be part of the conversation too. So he'll be in with us in just a few. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I sent the link. So King, let me ask you a question. Now, you had said something along the lines of, first of all, the terminology they use, the legalese, right? Legalese is set so there's no ambiguity when you have a contract. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I did take regulatory environmental law in college, which was only like 2 semesters, but I got an A. But when you're doing these contractual things and you're learning about these topics, there's reasons why they have them kind of uniformity, like the Four Corners rule, and when you're dealing with contracts, because they want contracts to be foolproof. Now, he went to law school, right? And so he knows all about the law. So where is it that you are learning these things that when I took it in college, I didn't hear anything about what you're talking about? He's a lawyer. He has no idea what you're talking about. So if what you're saying was true, who knows about this stuff? That's learning it. That's how you have to interpret these contracts that you're supposedly born with. It seems like you're the only one that knows this. No judges know it. No lawyers know it. It's not in the UCC, which has nothing to do with that anyways. That's all for private property transference and things of that nature, which is not even accepted by all jurisdictions. It's just a uniform code that they can use. But where is this all written down where somebody can say, hey, look, what you're saying, that is what's going on? Because it doesn't seem to exist anywhere, and nor is it taught anywhere.
Okay, it's very simple. This is very simple, guys. There is a defined. If it wasn't different, they wouldn't have to go through the job of making a difference between the two in definition, right? Like y'all were doing against Kynes with Amon-Ra and what's his name, and trying to get through that. Okay, there is a difference between legal person, which is created on paper, and natural person, which is created by God and created by nature, the universe. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback.
So God dictates contractual
legal
law?
person is created by government on paper, and the difference is, hold on, catus diminutio maxima means dead, no rights, not alive, and it's represented by a certain, it's all capital letters. Every time you get a bill, this is what you do your business with. Okay? When you get a bill, now, okay, we'll stop right there and make this simple and see what he has to say about that.
Artie? And then we'll get to
Artie,
James.
can
Hey,
you
James.
help us out with that? I don't think he answered anything.
I've heard the whole, all capital letters, John, before. I really have... I found a few originating cases that talk about it. There has no basis in law. We look at. When we think of. What's the more logical reasoning is that back in the 1920s, 1930s, when You still have Morse code and the early typewriters when all they could operate on was all capital letters on public forums. Is that could have been the reason why your name has been in all capital letters, and also that it tends to be easier to read when your name is in one sort of case, whether uppercase. So that I feel like is a more rational origination of why a lot of our public documents are in all capital letters, and not that it is a supposed signal that of your your non-flesh and blood entity straw man that you're trying to disassociate yourself with.
Hey James,
so that's what I got to say about that.
Fonts don't matter.
Hey guys,
hold on, King, hold that thought. Let's see what
Welcome,
James thinks, and then we'll.
Hey,
we'll
thanks
get
for letting me.
Sure.
I saw this topic coming up tonight, and I said I can't miss this show because I get called a sovereign citizen all the time, and I've been wondering for months and months, what is a sovereign citizen? And I'm hearing all these different definitions of what it is. I'm seeing what the FBI calls it. I'm seeing that police are basically lumping anyone who exercises their rights into this group of sovereign citizens and potential terrorists. So who is it that we have on the phone? The lawyer?
King. Artie's in the call, and King's in the call.
Artie, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate your insight on that, Artie. So if I'm not mistaken, what you're saying then is a sovereign citizen is someone who doesn't believe that the government that applies to them in any way, that the laws just don't apply to them, period, right?
Correct.
Okay.
For one reason or another, and that why they believe that can vary, but that is effectively it.
All right. Well, let's define law. Is statute law?
Yes. Statutes and codes are a type of law, just as common law and judicial precedent are also recognized law in the United States and the UK.
Now, there's a lot of us out there who are trying to change certain laws because we don't think that they're just. And again, we get lumped into groups called sovereign citizens. For example, I'm against the drug war. I think that all those laws should not exist. And I think that just as psychotic as it is that those individuals created a jail in their basement and we're going to lock up some police officers, that's pretty psychotic. That's pretty crazy. Those guys are out of their minds. I think it's also pretty crazy to lock up drug addicts in a cage.
I would consider.
Well, I mean, I personally
James
agree with you in that one, James. I mean,
yeah.
my views on the drug war are you'd find are probably similar to yours. Where the distinction I make, and I try to emphasize this a lot, is my argument is not whether or not the state should or should not impose this law. It's whether they can or can't, and I'll often emphasize that just because they can, technically, in a legal sense, doesn't mean they should. And so that's the distinction I try to make when I make these observations.
James, I don't see how why do you get called a sovereign citizen? I can't figure out why people.
It happens every day.
I know why you do,
Why?
James. I know why you do. Because they want to diminish what you do and lump you in with the other people. I watch all your videos. I'm a huge fan of your channel and also many other the others. I can't get enough. But I've noticed that a lot of times they do want to disassociate. They just want you to be associated with the sovereign citizen group, thinking because you're exercising your rights, you're in the same whackery that the sovereign citizen saying that, you have no jurisdiction over me. You recognize that they have jurisdiction. You recognize that they have laws. You're just asking them to enforce the laws that exist and not make up their own shit laws that don't exist.
And King,
that's not the same thing as a sovereign citizen.
Do you not think that anybody has jurisdiction, at all?
Yes, I do. If I go hurt somebody, if I steal from somebody, if I'm offering drugs or selling drugs to somebody, if I've injured somebody, just like in common law, it looks like James Freeman, I know, agrees, then yes, I'm a criminal if I have hurt somebody's property.
So where do you draw?
I mean, I've got to agree, no victim, no crime.
Okay, that's where you draw the line. Okay, all right. Okay.
It's that simple. But if you create statutes to the point to where it's like slowly boiling water to it end up injuring the minds of prisoners and the guards, because they are enforcing these laws that have become arbitrary to